Hello, Patriots. I'm Lee Watts, and this is Patriot Point, your source for Kentucky news and analysis from a conservative, Christian, and common sense point of view. Well, during this time of the year, the Kentucky legislature is in session making new laws for us here in the Commonwealth. So during this time of year, each week we're going to be going over 10 different laws that have been proposed, telling you what's good and what's bad. If you would like to contact your legislator about any of these bills, here is the phone number up at the Capitol. It is 1-800-372-7181. That is open weekdays during normal business hours. And remember, when you contact your legislator, to be brief, be courteous, and ask them to contact you back with what they're going to be doing about what you have said. That really makes them answerable to we the people. So here are 10 new bills proposed by the Kentucky State Legislature right now. There is House Bill number 67. Now, this one has to do with child sex offenders. Why is that picture up there? Let's change that. They did it again. And again. And again. Well, you just can't get around that. When it comes to child sex offenders, they got a law proposed, House Bill 67, that would say that they are required to stay a minimum of 3,000 feet away from like schools and playgrounds and parks and daycare centers, basically things where kids are at. Now, of course, this would mean kids wouldn't be able to go to like Washington, D.C. or Hollywood, but probably not good. They go there anyway. But this would keep sex offenders a minimum of 3,000 feet away from areas where children usually are at. House Bill number 67. Let's talk about House Bill number 79. House Bill 79 would say you have to be able to read English in order to get a driver's license. Like you see this sign right here. If you were driving down the street, if you don't happen to read French, you don't know what this sign says. You got somebody driving down the street and they can't read English street signs. That can be very dangerous. Put the lives in jeopardy. So House Bill 79 would say you have to be able to read English in order to get a driver's license in Kentucky. I think that's a very common sense kind of bill right there. Let's talk about House Bill number 89. I don't like this one. This would make it illegal for employers to ask if you have a criminal history when you're filling out a job application. This includes even if you have pending felonies, already convicted felonies. They're not even allowed to ask about that. I also think this is something that the employer should have the right to know. If you want to work for them, they should have the right to find out, are you a repeated convicted felon? So this is my opinion about House Bill number 89 and what we should do with it.
They call me Bill. Yes, they call me Bill. And I'm standing here on Capitol. Oh!
Yeah, I think they ought to throw House Bill 89 out with the trash. Let's talk about House Bill number 94. House Bill 94 has to do with the time the legislature is in session. Under current Kentucky law, the legislature can be in session for 60 working days on years like 2024, but they have to use up those 60 days and be done no later than April the 15th. So this law would allow them to say, you still only get the same number of days, but you can use those any time of the year that you want. You don't have to be done by April the 15th. Now, there's both good and bad things to this bill. It would be good because if they wanted to save a few of those working days they're allowed to have, they could save some. And if a governor were to go crazy with power, they could call themselves into session and pass a law and say, listen, Governor, you're crazy, sit down, shut up, and let the people actually have a voice in what's going on instead of one guy just deciding everything for the entire state. So that would be good. Now, one of the downsides of this, something to be careful of, is if they save a few days and then sometime later in the year, they call themselves into session and in 2 or 3 days, boom, they pass some law that really didn't get a lot of publicity in the state. It's able to sneak through really fast and maybe not something that people would want. It's like when Congress always votes themselves a raise. When do they do that? They always do it in the middle of the night on the weekend when nobody's watching C-SPAN. I know you might think, the politicians would never pull a dirty trick like that. You've not been paying attention if you think that. So that's some probably good things and potential bad things with that bill. That's House Bill number 94. Let's talk about House Bill number 96. This would say you can have 1 to 2 minutes of silence at the beginning of each school day. Doesn't have, it's not for necessarily for prayer. If the kid wants to use those 1 or 2 minutes for prayer or for meditation or just to try to make it through their day, I think it would be good with all the noise and hubbub, especially the pressures during school time, to have 1 or 2 minutes of silence to start off the day. And I think that would be a wonderful thing. That's House Bill number 96. Let's talk about our next one here. This is House Bill number 119. And this is called the Play Fair Kentucky Act. Sometimes it's been called in the past, it's similar to the Tim Tebow bill. This would say that homeschool students are allowed to participate in the public schools' extracurricular activities. Because the parents, they're having to pay the taxes for this school, and yet they're not getting any of the benefits from that. So this would allow homeschool students to participate in extracurricular activities of the public school. So that sounds good. However, keep this in mind. Some of those who are opposed to this say they're always afraid that this is going to come with strings from the state. And one of the reasons you take your kid out of the public school because you don't like what they're doing, and this could be a road back. So whatever side of the fence you're on this particular issue, and I can really see both sides on this one, let your voice be heard. Will definitely be affecting homeschool students in Kentucky. That is House Bill number 119. Let's talk about House Bill number 123. I am a veteran, and so I'm always very interested in bills affecting our veterans. This would say that military pensions don't have to pay a state income tax on that. I think that's great. This is similar to House Bill 129. I'm throwing that one in for free this week, which would say they wouldn't have to pay that on their salaries. I mean, we got some people in the service, they're making $30,000 or less per year as for their base salary. Way to appreciate our veterans during their time of service and into the retirement years. So no tax on military pensions. House Bill number 123. That'd be a state income tax. Let's talk about House Bill number 128. This again being proposed by the liberals, and it says everybody in Kentucky has to pay what they call a living wage. And this is basically the liberals' idea, and they're trying it every which way they can to raise the minimum wage up. We've got them trying to push for $15 an hour minimum wage in some bills. And this is just a recipe for massive inflation, and again, the government trying to control private industry. I really give this one, I think, has my same opinion as it did for that other bill, House Bill 89. I really feel about the same way about this one, House Bill 128. I really think we ought to do this with that one.
Yes, they call me Bill, and I'm standing here on Capitol. Oh!
Yeah, you can throw both those bills out together. We've got two left, and we'll talk about House Bill number 141. House Bill 141 says that the different organizations that control our water sources, did you know currently under the law, they are required to put fluoride into the water. I encourage you to do a little study on some of the dangers that come with fluoride. The fluoride industry is the one that pushed this idea that it's good for you. It's actually not so great for you. And this bill would say that the different organizations that control our water sources are no longer required to put that into the water. They would be allowed to, but they would not be required to. And that is House Bill number 141. Have one last bill this week, and this is House Bill number 145. You ever go to the hospital and they say, well, we want to do this test and give you this stuff, and you're like, well, okay, but they never tell you how much this is going to cost. It's like if you went to a restaurant and the menu just had, these are the different things you can buy, but it doesn't list the price on there. You ever go to a restaurant like that, it means everything is crazy expensive. So House Bill 145 would require hospitals to actually list, this is the different prices of things for their common services and items, so you can actually look at that before you agree that you're going to have this, that, or the other when you're at the hospital. So just kind of disclosing to the people, how much is this going to cost me? I think that really is great for transparency, and I wish they do that for a lot of industries as well. That is House Bill number 145. So again, these are some good bills, some bad bills. However you feel about them, make sure to contact your legislator. The phone number again for the Capital Message Center is 1-800-372-7181. Each week, I like to mention where I'll be speaking or preaching at in the coming week. Well, this Sunday, I will be preaching at the Mount Zion Baptist Church in Lexington. If you don't have a church home and you're in the Lexington area, we'd love to see you over at the services this coming Sunday. So that's the news for this week. So until next week, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point, reminding you that liberty is not a spectator sport.
Yes, they call me Bill, and I'm standing here on Capitol. Oh!